We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Mike Renner, Gayle, back in action here in the Cincinnati studio. I'm on another heater, Mike. I don't know if you feel it in the air. It may be cold outside, but I continue to bet well every weekend, and it makes my weekends better. I said USC -3. It got down to -2.5. I laid some more cheddar down on it. They end up covering the number, and I had Buffalo Bills -2.5. I had the Eagles money line. I had the Eagles +6.5 at a certain spot. I had the Washington football team money line. I don't know what to do, man. I might be retiring here soon.
Yeah. I mean,
I also had the Atlanta Falcons money line because I continue to sweat and bet the Atlanta Falcons for whatever reason, and they just find ways to lose football games.
Ohio just needs to legalize gambling now. The fact that Ohio, we live in Cincinnati, which is right on the border of Kentucky and Ohio. The fact that neither of those states have legalized gambling, like if Kentucky would, I would walk across the bridge right next to where I live every day and start placing down bets. It's just so dumb.
It's like a 10-minute bike ride for me to get to Kentucky. I would definitely do that. And so before we dive into things, I know we got a lot packed on the show today. Tristan Wirfs interview, mock draft, rookie and prospects review. People want the dating stories, Mike. Ooh. People have been reaching out and say, where are the dating stories? I got one. This is from probably like over a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. It was right when Deshaun Watson signed that monster contract on a Saturday morning. And I had a coffee date with this girl who worked at P&G, which if you don't know, it's a Cincinnati company that kind of makes everything. It makes everything. They make toothpaste, laundry detergent, Pampers, all of that stuff. She was a brand manager for Pampers. Her entire job was picking out the babies that go on the commercials. She's like, that's a good looking baby. Yeah, that's a good looking baby.
I can pick out good looking babies.
I was like, that sounds like the dream job. But she immediately, I said, I'm like a editor, writer at PFF, this company you haven't heard of. And she's immediately like, this guy doesn't make a ton of money. I'm immediately on the down a peg. Then we're talking for a little bit. It's a good time. She ends up finding out I don't have a car. I say, I don't have a car. I ride a bike. She's like, that's my least favorite thing about you. And I was like, oh my God.
Said that to your face.
So originally I'm like, wow, way to hit me in the chin. And then I kind of step back a little bit and I'm like, dude, that's not even bottom 5. There's a lot more things to find out that are worse than me riding a bike everywhere. But long story short, I never know how to end coffee dates. It's not when you just finish the coffee.
I've never gone on a coffee date.
It's terrible. It's terrible. But Deshaun Watson signs this monster contract and I tell her, hey, I kind of have to go. I have to sign this contract. She said, where are you going? I was like, actually, I brought my laptop. I'm going to work at this coffee shop and help edit this article to get on the site. She never texted me back. So
so you ended the date by just like pulling out your laptop and working right in front of her.
I mean, where am I going to go? Take an Uber from the coffee shop? I bike to the coffee shop.
You're basically just like, you got to go. That's how I'm ending this.
It was tough. Yeah, I mean, rightfully so. But she was kind of too full of herself. Let's be honest. Too full of herself.
Okay.
Too full of herself.
The problem was you started with the coffee date.
Yeah.
That's never... I've never, one, gone on a coffee date, and two, can't see how that ends.
I like them because they're low risk and obviously low reward. I mean, you're not like, taking anybody home or anything from a coffee date, whatever it may be. But I feel like on a first date, it's very low risk, very inexpensive. If it sucks, you're out of there in an hour. If it's solid, you line up a solid second date where you actually are more comfortable doing more second date activities, like a dinner or something like that. I don't personally hate it. So as much as you want to hate on me, that's fine. But she never texted me back. It was not a love story in the making. That's for damn sure. All right, let's go ahead and get into these headlines here. Jalen Hurts, who George called the best quarterback in the NFC East, won a football game against the number 1 seed or formerly number 1 seed New Orleans Saints. A good defense. He earned a sub 60.0 PFF grade in that game, but I still think what you saw from Jalen Hurts, this is what I'll say. It was a sub 60.0 PFF passing grade for a reason. He missed a handful of throws. What raised the floor of this offense was his rushing ability. Ran for over 100 yards, a ton of design runs. That is what kind of provided this spark for this Eagles offense. Miles Sanders said it best. He provided a spark. He's a natural-born leader. Was it a dominant performance by any means? Absolutely not. But it was a spark, and that's sometimes all you need when you're going against a battered Saints team with Taysom Hill under center.
It was like Tim Tebow coming in for the Broncos way back when. No, but that is what we talk about all the time in the draft process, about mobile quarterbacks who are a threat in the run game, quarterbacks who can legitimately be another running back in the backfield, is that you have a high floor for your offense. If that is Carson Wentz back there, and you have Carson Wentz's non-existent now rushing ability after all his injuries, that offense scores 3 points like it did the week before against the Packers. Like, it doesn't move the ball because Jalen Hurts is not moving the ball through his arm alone. He really was not that good. And if CJ Gardner-Johnson catches that pick 6 that he dropped, we're thinking about this performance. Yeah, we're thinking about this in a lot different light, and that's why his grade's obviously so low. But like I said, 100 yards on the ground, what he does in opening up holes for also Miles Sanders, who went over 100 yards on the ground, is big. Like, that helps a lot. And so it's worth asking the question why they didn't make it sooner, this move. I mean, Hurts looks, outside of that obvious pick, like he looks like he's comfortable enough back there. He's not panicking under pressure. Like, he looks more comfortable in the pocket than Carson Wentz does at avoiding pressure. Hard to look worse, but he looks more comfortable. So, yeah, I think job well done, but this isn't, like what Justin Herbert looked like out the gate. Like, this guy's going to be a stud. It's just, he's an obvious upgrade over the worst quarterback in the NFL so far.
I think that's very well put. Let's jump to Paul Guenther being fired. He was brought in with John Gruden. Apparently, they're really good friends, to be the defense coordinator for the Las Vegas Raiders, or then Oakland Raiders in 2018. Has been with them for now 2.5, 3 seasons. And I'll say this. Something that was mentioned was that they had a young football team, a young defense, and he just wasn't developing the talent to the tune. And I wouldn't put it past him. They have the 4th most snaps played this season by first-year and second-year players. They have a ton of young defensive players on that team. And that includes a team that's starting Nick Kwiatkowski, Corey Littleton, LaMarcus Joyner, among some other veterans. Yeah. Malik Collins is also on that football team. But they have a ton of rookies and second-year players. And I think it's more of a development problem. I think some of these teams, there's just no way the Las Vegas Raiders front office is swinging and missing on this much talent on the defense side of the ball. Maurice Hurst hasn't developed as we expected. Max Crosby, Arden Key.
Maurice Hurst has been good.
Maurice Hurst has been good, but he hasn't been world beater. He was our number 3 overall player in that class.
Yeah, he's been good.
He's been good, but he hasn't been a world beater. I think he could outperform expectations. Even Trayvon Mullen, who probably has developed a little bit this year, could be better. Who would you even say on that defense is the best player? Who's the best player on Las Vegas Raiders defense? I have a hot take.
Maybe Nick Kwiatkowski.
I was going to say Cleveland Ferrell. Like, Cleveland Ferrell this year has graded actually pretty well for that defense. Like, I think it's crazy to say it, but I think Cleveland Ferrell might be one of the better players on that defense right now, while the other talent just has not developed. How does Corey Littleton go from the highest graded coverage linebacker with the Los Angeles Rams to now the lowest graded linebacker in the NFL? I just think you're putting players out of position. LaMarcus Joyner was one of the highest graded slot corners with the Rams. He comes over and they make him play free safety. It's just confusing to me, the development and the placement of these players. I'm not surprised by the decision.
Yeah, but at the same time, just here's a rundown of the defensive players they've drafted in the first 3 rounds since John Gruden got there in 2018. You have PJ Hall, 2nd round pick 2018, not even on the team anymore. You got Arden Key, who was very much a project, very much had off-field issues back in 2018, has not developed. Cleveland Ferrell, top 5 pick. You can say he's the best defensive player. He's not lived up to what you'd expect from a top 5 pick. Jonathan Abram in the 1st round, bust coverage machine.
Oh my goodness.
Injury machine. Just kind of a mess all around. Trayvon Mullen, probably their best pick of this bunch when you think of where he was drafted and how he's performed. Then this year, Damon Arnett in the 1st. And Tanner Muse in the 3rd. Tanner Muse at safety is
Tanner Muse not even on this team?
I think he got hurt in preseason as a team player or something like that. But you didn't give him a lot to work. Like, their draft record has been pretty poor, and it's like kind of goes hand in hand with coaches developing, putting him in a position to succeed, and who you drafted. But that's not great. The one obviously guy I didn't mention who was a 4th round pick, Max Crosby. That's probably been their shining light on the defensive side of the ball in those drafts who they've picked. And Maurice Hurst fell to the 5th round back in 2018. Kind of an afterthought there for them, but he's probably been, like I said, one of their best defensive players as well. But they just they're swinging and missing a lot in the early rounds. Yeah. And that's where you need to have high floor guys. Like, you need to have competent starters on any 1st, 2nd, 3rd round pick that you're drafted. And they had just so far have not had that.
Yeah. I mean, even Cleveland Ferrell and Trayvon Mullen maybe are developing now into competent average starters in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But that's more than they could say about Jonathan Abram and some of these other guys. It's been a huge concern. I know that all of Raider Nation was calling for Paul Guenther's head even after last season. And to go into this year where they rank 31st in EPA per play allowed, I think they've only allowed 8 fewer touchdowns or 8 fewer points than the Dallas Cowboys, and as bad as they've been there in Dallas, huge concerns for them. And they've thrown a ton of resource at the defense side of the ball. Yeah. This is a completely different defense than what the Raiders had in 2018. And I know that means losing Khalil Mack, etc., but they've tried to throw free agent resource and draft capital at this defense and call them misses from the front office. But I think a majority of the misses, again, are on the developmental side. I do think that these players are not put in a position to succeed.
And we also talked about this, how they drafted guys, Trayvon Mullen, Damon Arnett. They cut their teeth as press corners in college. That's what they did. That's not what Paul Guenther runs.
Nope.
They are an off-zone heavy team. They play a lot of quarters. They play a lot of split field stuff. That's not what these guys are.
Yep.
They are drafting they would be better off running, Seattle cover 3 than what they're running right now.
Tough. All right, let's jump to the mock draft now. It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom on Las Vegas Raiders. I still think there's that offense. Some things are clicking offensively. Derek Carr is figuring it out with John Gruden. He's still not a perennial top 10 quarterback, but I do think in that offense, he's figuring it out. And from a receiving core perspective, there's opportunities to improve. You can't have Nelson Aguilar being your top deep threat. You need Henry Ruggs to step up there. You need other guys to be healthy as well. But Darren Waller, that offensive line, Derek Carr,
Brian
Josh
Edwards
Jacobs,
well.
I do think there's some pieces there with John Gruden calling plays for them to be a good offensive football team. The defense has been an unmitigated disaster since Paul Guenther's really taken the reins.
After this year's training camp reports, I don't think we should ever believe any training camp reports ever again. After Brian Edwards is maybe the most hyped wide receiver in football.
I forgot about that.
After training camp. Remember that?
Yeah.
And then Tyrell Williams got hurt, and everyone's like, is Brian Edwards going to go for 1,000 yards? Done absolutely nothing.
He can't even find the field.
Justin Jefferson talked about as if this guy doesn't know what a football is. Hasn't caught a pass all training camp apparently, and now he's best rookie wide receiver.
I mean, he might break the rookie receiving
yards.
yards
Does not
record.
matter. Your first, I really have that gets a lot of headlines because there's nothing else to talk about. But I think we need to downplay those more than we upplay those.
And guess what? I'm going to be feeding into them this offseason.
I know,
baby.
yeah, same.
I can't wait for the trading court reports to come out. All right, let's jump into this mock draft here. How we did this, it's going to be alternating GMs. We're doing this live on the podcast, reacting as players get picked off the board. You're going to start pick number 1, be the Jets GM through their 2 picks in the first round. I'll start with the Jags. And like I said, alternating GMs. Go ahead and kick us off. Let's move through these first 3 picks quickly. We know where we're going here.
Wait, should we pause? Because the mock draft simulator's back up.
Oh, the mock draft simulators pack up.
Yeah. Should we pause?
Okay, so pause right there.
Tell them about the mock draft simulator.
Yeah.
Tell the fans.
The mock draft simulator on PFF.com is honestly one of the best pages on the site. It's completely free to use. You get to see, our big board rankings, our player grades, 3-year player grades if you're an Edge subscriber for every single player on the big board. That's top 200 players on PFF's big board. And run through any mock drafts. You can run team trades. It's awesome. It's here's the thing. There are mock draft simulators everywhere. The Draft Network has one. Some other sites have them. But I really do think that PFF's mock draft simulator also adds a ton of value in showing you grades, showing you big board rank. And as we get closer to the draft, we're going to add analysis to the mock draft simulator as well. So go to PFF.com, PFF.com/mock, and run as many mock drafts as you want. You can run as many mock drafts as you want. It's a ton of fun there, and that's where we're doing this mock draft, actually, running the mock draft simulator. You starting with the Jets GM. Who are you taking at 1?
I would be taking Trevor Lawrence, quarterback, Clemson. Ever heard of him?
That's it? That's all? No
that's
analysis?
my analysis.
No analysis in addition to that?
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence is going to hold out and ask for a trade, but no, this is the easiest pick of the draft, in my humble opinion.
I mean, I don't see it going any other way, and I feel very similar about this one. I think the Jags at 2 are going Justin Fields at Ohio State. Some people are not happy with how Justin Fields has performed this year. I saw a tweet about it. I am blown away. Justin Fields is the number 2 quarterback in this class. I don't think Zach Wilson competes.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. I could see Zach Wilson being the pick, though, when all said and done.
Really?
And then I think 3, also an easy one for us. Bengals on the clock. We're not doing trades here. If someone wanted to trade from 4, 5, 6, somewhere in that range, I'd be willing. I think the Bengals should be willing to, because someone will be coming up for Zach Wilson. But I think Penei Sewell, need, value, position, ticks the box. I
mean, everybody I've talked to in Cincinnati wants Penei Sewell in a Bengals uniform next year. If they don't trade out of that number 3 spot, I think Penei Sewell makes the most sense.
Except
I think
Quinn.
What did Quinn say?
Not Penei Sewell?
Quinn doesn't want Penei Sewell?
I think shoehorning yourself into a pick at this point in the year, at this point in the season, is how you end up with the Billy Prices of the world, the John. Actually, I shouldn't say that. That's not fair to Penei Sewell, because he's not those guys. But when they've panicked in the past, and they have, that's when I think there's problems. So they should consider trading down. I wouldn't mind Jamar Chase.
For it to really be the Billy Price pick, Penei Sewell would have to go 2.
Yeah.
And then they'd have to scramble and draft Sam Cosmi.
Because that's what happened with Billy Price. The center went above him, I think it was Frank Ragnow?
Yeah, Ragnow.
And then they were like, oh, we still need a center. Might as well grab Billy Price.
Yeah.
That did not pan out. I think, to be honest, so I know we're not doing trades in the mock draft, but the Bengals picking at 3, they are in the best spot to trade down, especially with the Cowboys sitting there at 4, the Eagles there at 9. I mean, the Lions are in a pot. The Falcons, there are teams that are going to want a quarterback.
The team that's like low key could be in the quarterback market, the Panthers, man.
Yeah, the Panthers too. It's a great call. Number 4, the Dallas Cowboys, if they are indeed picking at number 4, I don't think this is close. Zach Wilson, quarterback at BYU. Tag and trade Dak Prescott. Give Zach Wilson to the Dallas Cowboys. Put a rookie quarterback on this with a rookie contract on the Dallas Cowboys offense. And now actually be able to afford some other pieces around him. They already have a lot of talent there. Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, offensive line when healthy. And defensively, as bad as they've been, I do think there's still some talent on that defensive side of the ball. They can get healthier there, maybe add some pieces in later rounds, maybe add some pieces in free agency with the money they save on Dak. Zach Wilson to Dallas at 4.
Yeah, so this one's a whole conversation, and we could spend forever on this. But the whole debate of, best case scenario, drafting at 4, you get a guy who's as good as Dak. And one, I think that eliminates the possibility of how good these prospects are. If it is a Zach Wilson, if it is a Justin Fields, they could be easily better than Dak. Like coming out, they would have been considered. They're considered much, much better prospects than Dak. That's why they're getting drafted in the top 5. But also it ignores the whole fact that Dak's asking for $40 million a year. And what the kind of position that puts you in, especially now with the cap going the way it's going, down, that is. And all the money they have tied up to a bunch of guys, you're just hamstrung to where you're not going to be. And one, you haven't been a playoff roster the past year and a half. And 2, you're hamstrung to the point where you're not going to continue to be one. You're not going to add any new talent to this roster. So
it's not as simple as Zach Wilson versus Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
It's Zach Wilson on a rookie contract versus Dak Prescott at $40 million per year. Yeah. And I think Dak Prescott is the better quarterback in 2021 than Zach Wilson. However, it's about Zach Wilson and the future he has in Dallas and what you can do with that extra money you have in the cap. All right, give me what you're doing with the Chargers.
All right, I have the Chargers. You already took my tackle. This one could go a number of different ways. I'm going to go this way, though, because edge talent doesn't last long. I'm going Kwity Paye to the Chargers. Melvin Ingram, last year of his deal, may not resign. I think he's 30 years old. Just keep that strength of strength. Keep the defense good.
So much of me wants to go for the Carolina Panthers here at 6, Jamar Chase, and just continue to light the world on fire there in Carolina. Especially with Robbie Anderson, has only signed a 2-year deal. DJ Moore is going to have to make big money there. Curtis Samuel has not been like that true number 3 that's been dominant for them. You could add Jamar Chase, put DJ Moore in the slot, and then have Robbie Anderson outside, and then really take this offense to the next level. I'm going to go Micah Parsons. I think they're looking for Luke Kuechly's replacement, and they got Jeremy Chin has looked like a stud this year. Derek Brown has played better of late. Even Yetur Gross-Matos has played better than expected in some games this year. Add Micah Parsons to this defense. It's a defense that desperately needs help from an athleticism standpoint, talent standpoint. Add Micah Parsons here. I know I want to get Jamar Chase. I know I want to get Jalen Waddle to really take the top of this offense, but I do think Micah Parsons is that generational linebacker prospect that can help that defense significantly, especially here picking at 6.
All right. We're going to get a little nuts at 7. And I like the Parsons pick at 6. I think that with the way they run their defense, he'd be perfect. Jamar Chase at 7 to the Falcons.
Yes.
Yeah, they have Calvin Ridley. Yeah, they have Julio Jones. Julio Jones getting up there in age, getting up there in terms of just being healthy. And in today's day and age, 3 wide receivers see the field at once. This would be the best receiving core in the NFL. Take that offense back to where it was when they went to the Super Bowl.
That sounds incredible. Stop throwing the ball to Christian Blake, Olamide Zaccheaus, and Russell Gage. Start throwing to Jamar Chase, Calvin Ridley. And as often as Julio Jones has been hurt late in his career, I do think you need a Jamar Chase. I do think you need some depth there. As good as Julio Jones is, he simply has not played a ton of games of late. That's just where he is in his career right now. I think Jamar Chase there at 7 is hot. I don't think Falcons fans would love it, but I think it's fantastic. There at 8, Dolphins picking for the Houston Texans, Jalen Waddle. Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Waddle are back at it again. I said this on a couple episodes ago. I think this Miami Dolphins receiving core, as hyped up as it is with Preston Williams and Devontae Parker, needs some juice. And Jakeem Grant's great. Eric Eager calls him a poor man's Tyreek Hill. I don't know if he's doing drugs before that take. I don't know. But I do think adding Jalen Waddle here with Devontae Parker and some Preston Williams and the 7 tight ends they throw to, Durham Smythe, Mike Gesicki, etc. I think this is a piece that I really like. And pairing him with Tua Tagovailoa, adding some comfortability there. Yes, the ankle injury is a concern, but this guy has juice, I'd say, better than what Henry Ruggs put on table. We've talked about he has the straight line speed and the jitteriness, the side to side, the agility that you love at that position. I think Jalen Waddle 8 is where I'm going for Miami.
Yeah, I like it. I can get on board with that. And I think he's probably a top 10 pick in this year's draft. I have the Eagles at number 9, and we're going to go cornerback because they've ignored it for far too long, even though they traded for Darius Slay. They're going to go Caleb Farley, the Virginia Tech opt-out. He's the most physically, I'd say, gifted of these top cornerbacks in terms of size, speed, athleticism. Wish he would have played this year. Would feel better about it, but I think the tools are there, and I'm going to take a shot if I'm the Eagles.
Number 10, the Giants. I'm going Devontae Smith. I've tweeted about Devontae Smith a handful of times. The number one fan base that replies or responds to these tweets is the Giants. And I remember very much so this time last year saying, hey, instead of an offensive tackle at 4, what if we went after a receiver? What if we went after CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, not Justin Jefferson? We weren't as high on him. But now the same Giants team is like, man, we could really use a receiver. And I think this is the piece to do it. Devontae Smith of Alabama goes to the Giants here at 10. You have to continue to throw resources at the offensive side of the ball. I could see going after potentially a Sam Cosmi here, the Texas offensive tackle, to continue to throw pieces at that offensive line because it's still not where they want it to be. But adding Devontae Smith with Darius Slayton, with Evan Ingram, continuing to try and give weapons to Daniel Jones. The Buffalo Bills method of just throwing so many pieces at offense to try and get some weapons for their young quarterback, Devontae Smith of Alabama to the Giants is my pick.
Yeah, that receiving core needs like a number 1 receiver. They got a bunch of number 2s and 3s. So I can get on board with that. I got the Lions at number 11, and we're going to go third quarterback here. We're going to go Trey Lance right in front of your 49ers there because I think Lance and Sean McVay would love to have him, but the Lions kind of get a bridge guy. Or they have Stafford. You can let Stafford work, but Stafford is not the Stafford of old. Like he's kind of had like a mini Carson Wentz-esque downturn in terms of just physically, like he's missing throws, not playing the same as he did in years past. So I'm going to go Trey Lance here as a developmental guy to sit on the bench for maybe a year, maybe 2 behind Stafford and transition in time.
Man, that is tough. I wanted Trey Lance for the 49ers at 12. I think the 49ers at 12, if they're picking there and Trey Lance is on the board, I don't think he will be. I think Trey Lance ultimately probably goes top 10, teams trading up into the top 10 to grab him. But if the 49ers are sitting there at 12, I don't think Kyle Shanahan waits a second to get Trey Lance in the building, even if he doesn't play in year 1, even if he plays behind Jimmy Garoppolo and company in year 1. I do think adding Trey Lance would be an awesome piece for this 49ers team.
Do you think they'd be willing to go somewhere like a Mac Jones or a Kyle Trask?
See, I'm thinking that myself.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Kyle Trask, 24th on our board. You have Mac Jones 29th on our board. Do I reach for a quarterback here? Reaching for a quarterback, I think, honestly doesn't exist. When you have quarterbacks with first-round potential like Trask and Mac Jones, these ceilings that these two dudes have, maybe it makes sense. The only thing that's giving me pause, I think Shanahan wants a mobile QB. Shanahan wants a guy that can move and add to that offense, add to that rushing floor where other teams are finding success. Trask and Jones are both not that mobile. I think Trey Lance would have been the pick for me. Damn you, taking him for the Detroit Lions. Now, I'm kind of lost here. I kind of want to add to the offensive line. Mike McGlinchey has regressed since his rookie season, and I think they do still need help on the interior. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go Sam Cosmi of Texas going to the San Francisco 49ers, continue to add to that offensive line. Okay. A major piece for them as they continue to try and win with Jimmy Garoppolo. Because winning with Jimmy Garoppolo means winning in the trenches and running the football with success with Raheem Mostert, whatever random running back they have there. I'm going Sam Cosmi, the Texas offensive tackle, to the Niners.
Yeah, I think he's a good fit for them.
Athletic.
With his athleticism. All right, I have the Broncos at 13. I think they're set at wide receiver. There's still some good wide receivers on the board here. I'm going to look more to the defensive side of the ball, where I think they'd love to have Patrick Surtain in there, the Alabama cornerback.
You're taking I was going to go him to the Vikings. I thought Vikings would have been a nice fit for Patrick Surtain there, but that's pretty sweet going to the Broncos. I mean, they're going to continue to add an outside corner. Bryce Callahan has been their best corner, playing mostly in the slot, or he's been playing some outside as well. But
AJ Boye, I think, is gone after this year, or as at least a free agent. And then you have Michael Ojemudia has been up and down, but not enough for me to say he's for sure my starter in the coming years.
All right, Minnesota Vikings here at 14. I'm going Gregory Rousseau, the toolsy, athletic, long edge defender for the University of Miami that opted out this season, due in large part to his mom was a nurse, did not want to put anyone in harm's way with COVID-19, and I think rightfully so, but they love length there in Minnesota. Danielle Hunter missed this entire season due to injury. I think they want to add, this pass rush is bad, absolutely terrible without Danielle Hunter. I think adding Gregory Rousseau here, making a strength to strength. That defense is already very good with the talent they have there. But I think Gregory Rousseau at 14, I'm more comfortable with him outside the top 10 than maybe some others are because so much development is needed for his game. But there at 14, I think he's a steal.
Yeah, and it obviously fits, like you said, the mold they like on the edge. At number 15, Chicago Bears.
They need another tight end.
But I'm going to go Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle, Virginia Tech, one of the biggest risers this year, one of the highest graded tackles in America, athletic, can start at guard if they want him to. I just think they need reinforcements along that offensive line.
Every part of me for the New England Patriots at 16 makes me want to go Kyle Pitts. Give him a tight end. Give Bill Belichick what he loved to have back in the day. I'm going a different Kyle. I'm going Kyle Trask there at 16. Maybe a bit of a reach there. He's 24th on PFF's board, but they need help at the quarterback position. You can't go into next season with Cam Newton with what he's done so far this year. He's had some successes, specifically rushing the football and early in the season, but just not the same passer he was. And I think to take this offense to the next level, yes, it needs weapons. You can't just roll out N'Keal Harry and a 38-year-old Julian Edelman and expect to have success offensively, but it starts at the quarterback position. Finding your guy under center is so important. I don't have to tell you that. I don't have to tell the NFL that. I think Kyle Trask there at 16, I'd be surprised if he lasts this long in April's draft because of the value of the quarterback position. But if the Patriots don't have to trade up for him and can stay put at 16 to get Kyle Trask, I think they swing the bat.
I can see it. I definitely can. And the need, you can't argue with. It will be interesting to see if they do address it because they're not going to be or make a move to go up and get a guy in this year's draft because, like I said, they're not going to be in a position for one of those top 3 or 4 when all said and done. But obviously, they still need one. All right, Raiders at 17. We'll go linebacker here, even though you hope Corey Littleton turns things around and Nick Kwiatkowski's actually been not bad. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, though, from Notre Dame, a different player than both of those guys in terms of his versatility, hybrid nature. Like he's a better coverage player at linebacker. Like he'd be a better safety than Jonathan Abram right now in terms of what he brings to the table coverage perspective.
I almost sent this tweet out, by the way. I sent out something on Jonathan Abram saying about his coverage bust this season. I almost replied, reminds me a lot of a Tahir Whitehead, a hard-hitting Tahir Whitehead, which I know Raiders fans love near and dear. I'm going to do something a little crazy. Baltimore Ravens here at 18. And I know Ravens fans will probably hate me for this. Most of the NFL will probably hate me for this. Let's strengthen a strength. Let's add Kyle Pitts to the Ravens offense. Like to run 2 tight end sets. The receiving core that they do have, trotting out Willie Snead, Miles Boykin, and Marquise Brown just hasn't got it done. Mark Andrews and Kyle Pitts owning the middle of the football field, those 2 tight end sets where you can run heavy with Lamar Jackson and then have Boykin, a combination of Boykin and Snead outside, and then Marquise Brown entering year 3. That offense gets that much more explosive. That's more versatile. Kyle Pitts barely even plays tight end at Florida. Like to call him a tight end, I think is rich. Plays in the slot, plays outside. You could do a lot of things with him. I think that would be an awesome, awesome sight to see there in Baltimore.
Yeah, and I think they could make it work. Like they get their tight ends. They're not inline blockers necessarily. Like they want good blockers, but they get them out moving in space a lot of times. Like you don't have to be your 6. You don't have to be Rob Gronkowski in one-on-one against a DN to block effectively in that scheme. So I do think they could make Kyle Pitts work. If anyone, this is a decision here. I got the Washington football team at 19. They've played their way out of the quarterback class if they're picking 19th, unfortunately for them. Like they obviously still need a quarterback considering who they've got in there and that they're pretty much giving up on Dwayne Haskins at this point, even though he led them to that big win this past week. Joking, obviously, he looked awful. So they could use wide receiver, could use offensive line help. They could also just make that defense, incredibly strong if you go somewhere, stay in that front 7 or that secondary. I think I'm going to go, though, best player available, true to the board. I'm going to go Rashad Bateman for them. Give you 2 complete route runners in him, Terry McLaurin. I think that would be the makings of a very good receiving core for whoever does.
They have to add to that receiving core. It can't just be Terry McLaurin and the Sims brothers. I don't think they're brothers, but you got Cam and Steven Sims there. And they've played well. They've played well of late. And Logan Thomas has even showed up at tight end for them. But adding Rashad Bateman, a legitimate piece to them out of Minnesota, I think is great. I'm sticking to our board as well here. I'm going Cardinals at 20, grabbing Rondale Moore of Purdue. I'd love to see that. Andy Isabella has not panned out for Arizona. He's not getting the snaps that you expected to see. And DeAndre Hopkins' route tree, I saw that next gen stats chart. I don't know if you've seen what he's been running over there. So many outs, so many hitches. Give those to Rondale Moore. Let that guy eat after the catch. Let's push DeAndre Hopkins downfield. Let's run more vertical routes with DeAndre Hopkins in 2021. I think. And Cliff Kingsbury, we've had this conversation before, a bit overrated. You have to hope if you give him Rondale Moore, he can find ways to get him the football and have some fun because they run a ton of screens there, specifically wide receiver screens. Rondale Moore is a legitimate yak machine. Give him to Kyler Murray, give him to Arizona, and let's see him cook. Mm-hmm. I'm back-to-back picks here because the Dolphins are picking again here at 21, and I'm sticking true to the board again. Highest-ranked player on the board right now, 19th overall, Elijah Vera Tucker. USC offensive tackle, likely plays guard in the NFL. That Dolphins offensive line is still atrocious. They're not able to run the concepts they want to run, the longer developing plays with Tua Tagovailoa because of how bad that offensive line has been. With Saul McKinley, Austin Jackson, so much youth already, but you need to keep throwing resources at the offensive line. I'm not against them adding more resources in free agency as well, but if you have Elijah Vera Tucker there, highest ranked player on our board right now, going to the Dolphins at 21. I like that a lot.
Yeah, you just can't bank on. I mean, they haven't been unmitigated disasters, the rookies up front, but you have 3 rookies who have none of them in Austin Jackson, Solomon McKinley, Robert Hunt been like competent quality stars yet. Mm-hmm. You can't bank on that just turning around. You have to keep throwing resources, like you said. Elijah Vera Tucker,
who beat Kinley pretty bad this week?
Better prospect than any of those guys coming out.
You know who beat Kinley pretty bad this week on a couple snaps? Tristan Wharton.
Ooh, yeah, Tristan.
I don't know.
We highlighted that matchup. Do you remember that?
I don't know if you like that matchup or not, but I mean, he was beating him early in the snap. Those were some fun reps from Wharton.
All right, we have the Tampa Bay Bucs on the clock here. I got a little decision in my hand because they don't really have much in the way of needs. Like, It's a fairly complete roster, really young secondary, good linebacking core, young linebacking core. I think defensive line is probably, if you could say one need, like some depth in terms of pass rushes there. So I'm going to go ahead and throw Jason Owe at them. Developmental pass rusher. They obviously only have Shaquille Barrett on the franchise tag right now. No sort of sure thing that he'll be back next year. So we'll go Jason Owe, although I will say I considered Mac Jones, stylistically a similar quarterback to Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Getting to go there, learn behind Brady for a year before eventually being the heir apparent. Could be an option for them if they really do, get deep into the playoffs this year. I would think about that if I'm the Bucs for sure.
And you have back-to-back picks here.
Now I have back-to-back picks now. I have the Colts at 23. I've said this all along. This guy's a perfect fit for them.
God damn it.
Tyson Campbell, Georgia cornerback. He literally had a pick in cover 2, which is their preferred defensive choice there in Indianapolis this past weekend. Xavier Rhodes, on only a 1-year deal, will be a free agent after this season. So Tyson Campbell goes to the Colts at 23.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think I'm going to go offensive tackle for the Tennessee Titans here at 24. They were starting Scott Quessenberry, I think, at left or right tackle this past week. I don't know who I was watching. Oh, it was Kelly Von Chason. Had the best game of his career. I was like, oh, man, let's see it. Dude was just putting Quessenberry in a blender. It was bad. I think they need help at offensive tackle. Losing Jack Conklin was bigger for them than they thought. And getting Alex Leatherwood, one of the smoothest moving offensive tackles in this class, a true athletic freak coming out of Alabama at 24. Yeah. I like that a lot. And maybe Isaiah Wilson does pan out for them. I know they just invested in offensive tackle, but I think just you'll have to throw resources at that position. You rarely see guys pan out early on in their careers. I think Leatherwood at tackle is a great one.
I can dig it. All right, Jets at 25 is me. First pick, I went Trevor Lawrence. Now, you have to consider some sort of aspect of positional scarcity here if you're the Jets. They have a ton of needs. But where you're going to get a position that you're not going to find later. A lot of time, edge talent is easy to identify those athletes, and they go early in the draft. You don't want to be drafting a lot of edges in the 3rd round. Just not a lot of them pan out. Whereas interior offensive line, which would be another need for them, I would think someone like Wyatt Davis or Rashawn Slater they'd love to have here. But you can find that guy. You can find a competent guy in that regard in the 3rd round. So I don't think I'm going to go interior offensive line for them. I think I'm going to address one of the needs that might be a little bit more difficult to do later on. I'm going to go Carlos Basham, the edge defender out of Wake Forest. Bit of a down year, but he's still a freak. Obviously, he was number 2 on Bruce Sullivan's freaks list. Big, explosive dude. Don't know who their DC is going to be next year. Obviously, that's in flux. But I think Carlos Basham is versatile enough that he can play maybe 3 or 5 technique in your defense if need be.
Jacksonville Jaguars at 26. We're getting Darion Kendrick, Clemson cornerback, adding, speaking to positional scarcity, you're not going to add a ton of talented outside cornerbacks after day one. I think adding him alongside, continue to throw at that defense, man. It's a young defense. I think right now they rank second in the NFL in snaps played by first and second year players, but I do think they have to continue to throw resources at that defense. Obviously at number 2, I went Justin Fields. I feel confident in Laviska Shenault Jr., maybe DJ Chark continuing to have success offensively. I still think they need to throw resources there, maybe add a free agent wide receiver and what is a very good free agent receiver class. There's a lot of good receivers entering free agency this offseason, but where I'm at on the board, who's available, I think I'm going to go Darion Kendrick at 26.
They really did not give a shit about the other quarterback position this year. They came up with no plan whatsoever.
It's been Luke Barkoo, undrafted free agent at San Diego State. I think this is an upgrade.
Yeah. So I will go Browns 27. They need a linebacker. You're not rolling in with Rashaan Evans. Again, not Rashaan Evans, the other Alabama guy who I'm blanking on right now. That Mac Holland.
Nope. Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking
Mac Wilson.
about. What the hell is his name?
That took too long. Yeah, Mac Wilson. All right, 5th round. I'm going to go Nick Bolton, Missouri linebacker. To me, one of the highest floor linebackers in this class because he's not a freak athlete, but he's more than athletic enough. He's just sees the game well, takes on blocks well. Yeah, he doesn't have the length. He doesn't tick the ton of the high-end boxes that you usually want. But I think that's why you're going to get a good player later on in the draft and why I'd love him if I get him at the Browns at 27, just because he does all the other things about playing linebacker position very well.
I think a lot of draft Twitter is going to fall in love with Nick Bolton. His highlight reel is insane.
His hits, man. He's a rock.
He's a monster. He hits hard, and I think that's what a lot of people like when they're turning on film. 28 here. I think the Buffalo Bills, he's fallen down the board enough. I think he ranks inside 21, 22 on PFF's board right now. Shaun Wade, the Ohio State cornerback. I wrote about earlier in the year that if Big Ten doesn't play another snap, he would be one of the lowest. He would be one of the few corners that has not played outside corner a ton in college that gets drafted in the first round. I think here at 28 in the Buff with Sean McDermott and where there's already a ton of outside corner talent, I think you could groom him and develop him into being that outside cornerback that he can be in the NFL with proper experience. If not, I really like him as a box player. I really like him in the slot. He's aggressive. He tackles well. And I don't think they said this on the broadcast last night. Slot cornerbacks start in the NFL. You have to have a damn good one. I think Shaun Wade's floor is a damn good slot cornerback in the NFL.
I like the fit, too, going to Buffalo. I think that makes sense for him. All right, the Packers on the clock, 29.
Mac Jones.
I would love to go wide receiver here. I really would. But I'd also love to go this guy because he's so much fun.
Oh, buddy.
And he's going linebacker, Zaven Collins of Tulsa, going to the Green Bay Packers. He's just a monster, and they need an inside linebacker desperately. Like, they play dime every snap because their safeties that they have are just as good in run defense as the linebackers. Like, they're just so bad at that position right now. I think Zaven Collins is the do-it-all guy that they kind of have been missing in the middle of that defense.
I'd be really surprised if he goes in the first round. I think he's been a fantastic player there at the collegiate level. I still think he's a developmental piece. You got to have to find a role for him in the NFL. But for the Packers, I mean, he plays with his hair on fire. It'd be a good change of pace to see that linebacker for the Green Bay Packers. Here, I don't think this is how the draft pans out. I think the quarterback position in today's NFL is valued too much for a guy of Mac Jones' caliber to really fall here. I think teams are going to be trading up to grab him. But we're going from Big Ben to Big Mac. Mac Jones of Alabama going to Pittsburgh. Ben Roethlisberger after this past week's game is talking about if I can't play well, I'm hanging him up. Like, that's where he is right now. And I know he says that, every year? But still.
Was that a quote from 2014 or something?
Let's talk about it. Big Ben has not played well this year. I would not call him a top 12 quarterback in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
Maybe not even 12, top 15. That's been a struggle. He's not airing it out like he used to. They don't target the deep parts of the field. It's a very dink and dunk offense. Bring in Mac Jones, with legitimate talent to throw downfield, one of the best vertical throwers in college football right now. As a developmental piece, if Big Ben's willing to stick around, and if not, put him in as a starter.
Well, everyone was talking about the elbow injury heading into the season. And then they were winning games, and no one's kept talking about it. But he does not have the juice on his throws when he does not, get a clean step and can put everything into it. Like the arm talent, just the simple, like the stuff he used to do from the pocket where he's just like pumping and then can just throw it from any angle. It's not there. Like it's not there like it used to be. And that's why, like I said, he's not a top 12 quarterback. And that's why we caught a lot of shit for saying that. But I think we've seen in the past 2 weeks that just like when he has to really put it on his arm and go down the field, it's not the same as what it, like the Big Ben of old. So I do think they do need to address it as well. I got the Saints at 31. We're going to go a little off the beaten path here. We're going to go Kadarius Toney from Florida,
goodness.
Going to New Orleans to pair with Sean Payton. He loves the gadgets. he give him as many as humanly possible.
He's almost as athletic as Taysom Hill.
And like this is those two in the backfield with Alvin Kamara, those three in the backfield. You run the triple option. Like that is that could be your offense in next year if you're Sean Payton, because of how dynamic Kadarius Toney is. Like that guy is a freak of nature in terms of some of the things he can do. The closest thing I've seen to Dante Hall.
Closest thing I've seen since Percy Harvin. He is like legit insane. I put in my notes we're going to talk about prospect performances after this mock draft, but like dude's slippery as hell. Like he is jittery with the ball in his hands.
I think Percy Harvin's biggest strength was his acceleration. I think he accelerates a little bit better than Toney, but in terms of just pure elusiveness and balance, I think Toney might be a little bit better.
That's just absurd. All right, 32. I'm going another running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. No, just kidding. That's not the missing piece. I'm going to Asante Samuel Jr., who can immediately step in and play slot corner for this Kansas City Chiefs team. They've struggled at corner. You know, they've struggled to allocate proper resources at corner ever since they lost really Steven Nelson. They've had Charvarius Ward. Obviously, Jerry Seed has played well for them at outside corner. But Asante Samuel Jr., I think, can come in and immediately play in the slot for the Kansas City Chiefs. Let Tyrann Mathieu be that rat in other defenses. But with Asante Samuel Jr., too, I think, yes, the size is a concern. But I think this guy could ball out at outside corner. He's undersized. I get it. But, like, I do think he has that versatility, those instincts. Obviously, his dad played in the NFL. It's crazy that like I watched Asante Samuel Sr. play. I'm getting to that age where like I'm watching their dads play. I mean, Frank Gore Jr. is playing for Southern Miss. It's wild to see. But Asante Samuel Jr., the 32, not Travis Etienne, not the final missing piece at running back. Add to that defense, add a cornerback here. I like that pick.
I can dig it. I would maybe go, if I were them, maybe just like solidify that interior offensive line. Really can't be getting
Wyatt Davis?
Someone like Wyatt Davis, Rashawn Slater. Like don't be getting Mahomes hurt. Do a little bit of investing in that regard. But Asante Samuel Jr. is a talented dude.
Yeah.
There you have it. 32 teams.
The all 32 teams mock draft brought to you by PFF's Mock Draft Simulator. Go to pff.com/mock to run as many mock drafts as you want. You can spend 2 days on the damn thing, mocking for different teams, trading between teams. I hate right now the no way crowd, and we'll get into this during draft season.
No way he makes it there.
I just can't handle the no way crowd. No way he falls to 10. No way he falls to 20. No one knows anything right now. No one knows absolutely anything about draft order, where players are going to be picked. Like, you are largely projecting players that you really like where you're thinking they're going right now. It's not until after the combine to really start to see where we think draft order is going to shake out, and not draft order, but where we think these guys are going to start to fall. So the no way crowd, when you're running mock drafts, throw it out the window. Mock who you want, get who you want, and let's add some talent to your favorite teams. All right, we only got a handful of minutes left here on the pod. We got to make sure we get to this. The Rolling Rooks and Raise the Glass segment, where we highlight our top rookies and top prospect performances. And then after that, we got the Tristan Wirfs interview. There's still a lot to go on here on the pod.
Yeah.
It's never ending here. Never ending. All right, let's go ahead and start with the Rolling Rooks. Who's your number one rookie from this past week?
Chase Young, man. Scoop score, Tutty.
One-handed. You got to mention that.
Yeah, one-handed. Looked just ridiculous. That duo of him and Montez Sweat, when they line up across each other, that's about as physically... the coming off the bus thing, they look ridiculous. Like those guys, that's an all-time sort of duo right there in terms of physically what they bring to the table. Chase Young, obviously, he didn't do too much damage as pass rusher against like Trent Williams, but he made his presence felt certainly in the run game. And, chasing down plays, high effort plays. The dude's got a high motor for as talented a player as he is too. That didn't really get talked about a lot in the draft process, but he certainly does.
Him chasing down runs on the backside and just absolutely lighting people up is incredible. Like, I think the motor is underrated. I love the Mike Tomlin quote that's been going around. Like, I don't want to lose as many games as it takes to get a player like you, of your stature, of your caliber. And like, you see it. People who look just at the box score don't see the impact that Chase Young's having. But like, because he was so dominant at Ohio State against the pass, and they were going against teams that were largely down 30 within the first 10 minutes, you didn't see him play the run a ton. He's playing the run for Washington now, and he looks awesome. Even beating Trent Williams at the point of the attack on a handful of runs. He didn't win every block. There were some times where he got beat to the edge, but really did like him coming off the backside, and even holding the edge against Trent Williams, had a handful of wins there. Dude's a stud, man. And he's another thing I added here in these notes, he's winning as a pass rusher without really a complex set of moves. He's just still physically dominant. Like, he just is just a better football player than a lot of the guys he's going against.
Myles Garrett didn't hit the ground running, but you saw him as a rookie and you're like, soon it's going to happen. So
I sent this to the social media guys, but right now, Chase Young, if the season ended today, he'd have the 7th highest graded season by an edge defender by a rookie edge defender in the PFF era, dating back to 2006.
Yeah.
The guys above him are Alden Smith, Von Miller, Khalil Mack, both Bosa's, Myles Garrett, and I want to say Chase Young's right after that. Like, that's how good. If you show up as a rookie like Chase Young is right now, and he still has a few more games to add to his total, I mean, you just have to feel really confident about where this guy's going.
Yeah, and you had to feel that when you drafted him, number 2 overall. I mean, you watched him at all in college, so that's how he felt.
Tristan Wirfs,
Tristan Wirfs at number 2. Yeah, so before the pod on Friday, we're looking. He's the 5th highest ranked right tackle in the NFL going in. We're just doing some prep, and I'm like, I wonder who schedule going forward. I wonder where he finishes up at. He had the Vikings, who he played this past week, Falcons twice, and the Lions. I'm like, this guy's going to end up the highest graded tackle in the NFL. He's got the 4 of the easiest matchups you'll see for any tackle, and obviously in this one against Minnesota, 86.1 overall grade, doesn't allow a single pressure. He was when you're as advertised against guys like Cameron Jordan, Brian Burns, you dominate the guys like whoever the hell Minnesota's throwing out. The DJ Wanham. You dominate the DJ Wanhams of the world. So Tristan Wirfs, exceptional performance. He is an elite right tackle.
Great way to tease the interview, Tristan. You come on the podcast and then on Friday and then on Sunday just dominate to win one of the. I think he was the highest graded offensive rookie this past week. And I pulled these numbers: highest graded rookie right tackles since 2006. Marshall Yanda, 2007. Ryan Ramczyk in 2017. Jeff Otah, 2008. And then Tristan Wirfs in 2020.
It's a crime that they didn't keep Yanda at tackle.
Yeah, absolutely.
He would have been a Hall of Famer. Still should be, but he would have been. It was like, I bet Zach Martin never needed to actually play guard. He probably could have stayed at tackle.
All right. Number 3, Jonathan Taylor, highest graded running back in the NFL since week 11. That's how good Jonathan Taylor has been ever since you had that take about him looking confused. And he was. Let's call it what it is. Jonathan Taylor wasn't playing well before this. He has found his confidence after the bye. Even before the bye, week 11 was before his bye week. But then after the bye, this dude's been just a different animal, an absolute different animal for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, you saw the speed in the open field in this one with that long run. And he's breaking tackles. I think they're doing a better job of realizing that he's not a pure one, he's not good on shotgun runs. He just the vision, the patience is different from, he just didn't do it at Wisconsin, hasn't been good at it. And he needs a little bit more space. You saw him get him out wide. Those were the outside zone runs is where he really thrived. Getting outside the tackles is where he thrived at Wisconsin. Not your kind of almost counterintuitively, not your between the tackles bruiser. He's a one-cut guy. So I think they've been taking advantage of that better. And 150 yards this past week on 20 carries, 9 broken tackles, lights out.
Dude, and okay, it was against the Raiders defense, who's been atrocious this year. But even if you turn on the tape, you see him just there's a couple runs where it's oh my God, you could have fit 14 Jonathan Taylors through that hole. But there's also a handful of other ones where dude's making people miss really nicely. Number 4, KJ Hamler, 2 touchdowns. I think only 2 receptions. Did he have any more receptions?
2 receptions. And
both roasting over an open fire. Play the Christmas music, Quinn. Chestnuts roasting over an open fire. It was Rasul Douglas getting absolutely cooked. KJ Hamler over the top for 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that Rasul Douglas one, the straight go route, was some of the worst cornerback play I've seen.
Yeah.
Straight up, KJ Hamler ran a straight line. Straight release. Rasul Douglas just fell all over himself. That's why he's on his second team already.
But he was getting burnt. That's the problem.
And KJ Hamler, though, the speed still plays at the NFL level and didn't drop a pass, which always good to see because he still does have 6 drops on 35 attempts this year, which we said coming out, we're like, drops going to be an issue.
Yeah.
They're not to Deontay Johnson level, but they're close.
Oh, man, poor Deontay Johnson. Dude has 12 drops this year, more than any receiver in the NFL. Raising a glass. Oh, no, one more. If we almost forget about this guy because he played on Thursday.
Yeah.
The Cam Akers, lit it up on Thursday night. He played really well. I mean, you loved Cam Akers coming out of Florida State. I said that stat 1,000 times, but no running back was contacted at or behind the line of scrimmage on a higher percentage of his carries than Cam Akers. The dude was playing behind an atrocious offensive line. Finally freed behind an NFL caliber offensive line, and now given the snap share there in Los Angeles, dude's balling out.
Yeah, in terms of just if there's one running back from this past year's class that just has the ball in space, and one guy trying to tackle him, I think I would trust Cam Akers to break that tackle, to make that guy miss more than any other guy in this class. Maybe Antonio Gibson was up there, but we didn't see it enough. I think Cam Akers, just in terms of dynamism, was the most dynamic. But then that's only part of the part of what makes a good running back. You still have to run within structure. And I think we saw that well. 29 carries, 171 yards. I thought we saw him do that this past week against New England.
All right, moving to our Raise the Glass segment here, and then, of course, we go to our Tristan Wirfs interview. It's going to be, starting with the UNC backs, who combined for the most rushing yards in a single game by a running back duo of any college football team, I think in history. I think is what the stat was. Michael Carter and Javonte Williams, two guys that are forcing missed tackles at an absolutely absurd rate, but you have to bring this up. The Miami safety play, the Miami second-level play, linebackers and safeties, was honestly some of the worst I've ever seen. They were getting absolutely destroyed. I've never seen as bad of like truck sticks and angles. It was just sloppy. It was burn the tape film for Miami of Florida against UNC's Michael Carter and Javonte Williams.
I mean, that one Javonte Williams run where he just like
ends the dude.
Yeah, is running like high, like it's just in a straight line, barely lowers his shoulder, and the safety just like, I don't know what he was doing.
Dude, collapsed like a Jenga block. It was awful.
It was brutal, but they both averaged over 10 yards a carry, I think. Just broken tackles left and right, 11 for Javonte Williams. That was pretty ridiculous. They are both, Javonte Williams now is a running back 2. Michael Carter, I want to say, is running back 5 or 6 for us. They're both real deal. They're not making it out of day 2, both those prospects. I'd guess Javonte Williams could be early day 2.
Man, I imagine what it's like in the huddle when you're having a game like that. When you and your boy are having a game like that, you're just laughing, like literally laughing in the huddle. Oh, another run play. Oh my God, we just got another 10 yards, whether it's Carter or Williams. That's wild. That's got to be tough for Miami of Florida there. All right, Kadarius Toney is our number 2 raise a glass here. I mean, he continues to look really, really good. And even though Florida lost that game thanks to Marco Wilson hucking that shoe, I do think Kadarius Toney was a standout performer in that game.
Definitely a pour one out. Blackout, whatever you want to call it, for Marco Wilson.
Did you see the quote from Dan Mullen?
Yeah.
Saying it was like, it was in the football move?
I think what he was trying to say was that the shoe got into his hand in a football move. And then he's like, oh, we threw it or whatever. Which, in basketball, when the guy throws, like guy loses a shoe, like you throw it off the court, that's like a typical thing that happens in basketball. Now, you don't huck it like that.
That's because there's no breaks in basketball.
Yeah. That was
because you don't want to step on the shoe and roll an ankle. But in football, there's a big ass break between plays where you can even hand the shoe to the guy, but he launches it in such a clutch moment. That was tough, dude. That was real tough. Yeah. And I hated the broadcast team just continuing to show that guy on the bench. Dude, cut him a break. I mean, he's obviously in a pit of misery.
But Marco Wilson was the same guy. This is not new. This is not unfound territory for Wilson. He was the same guy who had the pass interference last year against, I believe it was Miami in the first week of the season, or I guess it was week 0. When it was like a 4th and 30 or 4th and like 20 something. And the target was like 10 yards short of the sticks and he commits a PI. One of the worst PIs I've ever seen because of that. So this is not
the boneheadedness is not
for Marco Wilson. That is kind of his MO at this point. But Kadarius Toney, career day. I mean, 182 yards, 9 catches, 56 more yards on the ground as a runner, and I think only 3 carries. He had some broken tackles in that game that no one else in college football could do. Like, I've not seen some of the moves he put on guys. Like, he had a run play where he was making his next move while he was still being tackled. Like, he's making a spin move to break a second tackle as he's still kind of in the grasp on the first tackle. The guy just moves at a different level and has a different sort of balance than anyone else in college football. I do think he ends up in the first round. I think someone's going to see that skill set. Even though he's not a polished wide receiver, there's still some serious, like the reason he only has 124 yards on the season is not really a featured guy in that offense necessarily because he's not, like I said, much of a wideout. But I just think someone's going to see that level of explosiveness, elusiveness, just game-breakingness, if that's a word. It's not, and want him in the first round.
I think late first round, early round 2. I do think that he has that dynamism that teams are going to latch onto in the top 40 picks wherever he ends up. Jabril Cox, linebacker, playing linebacker for the LSU, coming off his second highest graded game of the season, a 79.1 PFF grade in that upset win over Florida. Also got after the passer, 4 total pressures in this one. Had a really good day, two pass breakups as well. Jabril Cox, he was the transfer from North Dakota State, I think is what it was. Has had an up and down season, hasn't graded like extremely well, but in coverage, an 83.2 grade, 9 total pressures on the year. Those are numbers that you like to see from a guy who's just transferred from North Dakota State to the SEC.
Yeah, and he had a play in this game where he's forced to cover Trayvon Grimes, one of their top wide receivers for Florida in the slot as he goes on a vertical kind of over route. And he sticks with them, made a pass breakup on it. That's what you need to see. That's what you're going to be asked to do in the NFL level nowadays at the linebacker position. You're going to have to do that. And if you can't, you're just not going to go high in the draft. Jabril Cox has that ability. Now, I'm not sure. No, he's not going to be Patrick Queen level of that ability. He's not near that. Like, I don't think he's near a first rounder, but I think this guy's fairly firmly in the day 2 mix. Like I said, had a good game on Saturday.
Last one here before we jump to the Tristan Wirfs interview. Maryland edge defender Darrell Nachami. Has only played, 3 games this year? The past 2 games, he's played over 30 defensive snaps. But against Rutgers here, a 94.6 PFF grade, a 95.0 pass rushing grade. These are Chase Young numbers here. 8 total pressures, 4 sacks. Absolutely a monster game for Nachami.
I was going to say, talk about coming out of nowhere. This guy played 221 snaps as a freshman in 2018. Only 66.7 overall grade. It's actually not terrible for a freshman. Gets hurt 2019. Doesn't play, hurt early on the season, hasn't played, only plays 4 snaps against Northwestern. And then finally gets a start, finally healthy again, starts against Indiana only a few weeks ago, only played 4 snaps in the season. 6 pressures against Indiana, 83.4 pass rushing grade. 8 pressures this past week against Rutgers, 95.0 pass rushing grade. Size, length, ridiculous bend around the edge. I don't know, had heard nothing about this guy obviously beforehand because of all the injuries, because of the fact that he really hadn't even played. But this looks like I don't think he's going to get enough tape to play, but he looks like a legit top 100 type of prospect that I hadn't even heard of before.
I got to be honest with you, I have not seen him either. I need to dive into Nachami here. He's turning it on.
Like I said, 8 pressures, 4 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles this past week.
It's against Rutgers, but still, I'm interested.
Dominant. Yeah,
absolutely interested. All right, that's going to do it for the main slate here of the 2-for-1 Drafts Monday episode. Let's go ahead, Mike, and jump into our interview with Tampa Bay rookie offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs. Joining the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast is none other than Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs, a guy that we had on the podcast before the draft, before he was big time. Now he's on his way to what should be Offensive Rookie of the Year, Mike. Yeah. If tackles were treated fairly and Justin Jefferson was literally lighting the league on fire, Tristan Wirfs would be in the consideration for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Tristan, it's great to have you on the podcast. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Absolutely. First thing I want to start with, and this has to be said, rookie offensive linemen, and Mike and I talk about this a lot. The learning curve going into the NFL can be steep. It can be very hard. Even some of the best offensive linemen drafted every year can struggle out of the gate. It's been the opposite for you. And you didn't have an off season. You didn't have preseason to prepare for this year, but you've really started out and now are on pace to be the highest graded right tackle according to PFF when it's all said and done, if things pan out as they've been. Talk to me about what went into this season and how you prepared for this year, because what you're doing right now is truly unprecedented.
Yeah, I guess it's when we were in quarantine and everything, it was a lot of just training by yourself. We had our Zoom meetings with the O-line coaches, taking a lot of notes, just trying to do the best you could to absorb information. And then when we got here, my right guard Alex Kappa has helped me so much. He's such a great, he communicates so much, with just regardless of what's going on. He's just talking, making sure we're on the same page. So he's been a huge help. Rest of the guys too, like me and Donnie will be talking about stuff, different techniques and everything. But without those guys, it'd be probably a whole different story. And then, just doing the best you can.
So week 1, you're thrown into the fire going up against Cameron Jordan, really one of the best edge rushers in the NFL, a powerful dude. And then the second week, you're going up against Brian Burns, one of the better edge rushers in the NFL as well, but a completely different style of edge rusher. Do you plan for the guy you're going up against each week, or do you kind of play your game week in, week out?
Yeah, I think you got to do a little bit of both. You definitely want to know what you're going to be getting that week. Yeah, like you said, like Cam's a power guy. He's gonna try and run right through you, and Brian Burns, he's got a lot of moves to him. He's slippery, he's quick. But yeah, at the same time, you want to play your game and do what works for you. So I would definitely say it's a little bit of both.
I want to talk more about the matchups you've had this year. You've gone against an absolute insane amount of really talented edge defenders. That plays a part because you play in the division there with Cameron Jordan and Brian Burns, but you also went against Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa. What has been the toughest matchup for you so far this year?
Oh boy. I don't know if I could say like which one's been the toughest. They've all been. I've had a blast, getting to go against all these guys because they're so good, and it's a different challenge every week. Nobody's the same. 1 week, like I just said, 1 week you're getting power, 1 week you're getting finesse. Khalil Mack, he's giving you both. So it's been, they've all been challenging.
Let's bring up that Khalil Mack matchup a little bit. Twitter lit on fire when Khalil Mack hit you with the one-handed arm toss. Okay, it literally took over everything. Did you talk to Khalil Mack after the game? Did you bring anything up with him? Did you have a chance to talk about that hip toss? What was your opinion of that play?
No, I didn't talk to him at all about it. I mean, I didn't see anything wrong with it really. Like I was still blocking him. He gave me a little wrestling move. My wrestling coach, has done that to me a million times. Just rolled right through, popped back up, just on to the next play.
So let's also talk about the Joey Bosa matchup because, Khalil Mack is good to see as Joey Bosa also brings a different level of pass rusher to the NFL. What were some of the things you learned from going against Joey Bosa and having that one?
Well, he's got a crazy motor, honestly. Like he would keep going. Like I chopped him a couple times, but like I couldn't keep him down. He was like bear crawling a couple times, and the way I don't even know how to explain it, but the way like the angle that he plays, like coming off the ball and everything, like he's so low, and he just generates so much power. Like I remember, I seen a picture from that game, and like I think he had both my feet up off the ground. But yeah, he's a great rusher. It was fun to go against him.
So you mentioned your wrestling background. That kind of brings up a guy I want to talk about, your former teammate, center Tyler Linderbaum at Iowa. How good is he, one? And two, who wins a wrestling match between you two now? Because I know you guys had some battles back in the day.
Yeah. Lindy's a dog. You'll be, sure you guys will talk about him quite a bit more, but a wrestling match, that's tough. I don't know, honestly. I think it could go either way. He could get me or I could get him. Like that's how it went when we were growing up in high school. I think I got him like 4 or 5 times in a row, and then the last time I wrestled him my senior year, he beat me. So I think it could go either way.
Tyler Linderbaum right now, I think, is the highest graded center in football right now. He is living up to the dog mentality. I want to pivot back to the NFL a little bit and talk about Tom Brady and this offense. It's kind of a super team. I mean, in the NBA, you have super teams, but Tom Brady, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Tristan Wirfs, thrown into that conversation as well. You guys have so much talent. Antonio Brown, what has that been like working in such a talented offense with Bruce Arians under center? And what do you think the ceiling for this offense is as we close out the season?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of been like just crazy to be in the huddle with all these guys, guys that I grew up watching. So just being in the huddle with all of them is pretty cool. But, I think once when we're clicking, it's pretty hard to stop us. So I think it's just about finding that rhythm, and getting things moving.
So I didn't even mention Rob Gronkowski in that as well. I mean, there's just so much talent offensively. What has Tom Brady specifically, how much communication have you had with Tom, who has obviously worked with that offensive line closely, maybe the center more than you, but what impact has he had on you? Obviously a future Hall of Famer, maybe the best quarterback the game has ever seen. What impact has he had on you so far this season?
Just having Tom at quarterback, just being able to learn from him and listen to what he says. I think the biggest thing, a bunch of people from my hometown always ask me, but how great of a leader he is. Just the presence that he brings. It's been so awesome to get to play with him, and it's kind of cool. There'll be little things that he'll want me to do on certain plays. But just trying to make sure I get that done when he asks me to do it.
That's probably fair. Listening to Tom Brady is probably a good move. We're going to finish on this one. I know you do a ton of work for the University of Iowa Stead Family Children's Hospital. I want to let everyone know, or if you could let everyone know, how they can help there and continue to contribute to what you do there. Yeah.
So I love the Children's Hospital. When I was at Iowa, we'd go there, hang out with the kids. But I'll actually. I'm sure I can get a link and post it on Twitter. I'm going to be auctioning off my cause, my cleats. So all the proceeds will be going to the University Hospital. So that'll be on Twitter and Instagram. But yeah, that's exciting.
Fantastic stuff, man. Really doing a ton of great things on and off the field. Like I said, if I was a voter, Tristan Wirfs, Offensive Rookie of the Year. I'm sorry. Yeah. As much as the quarterbacks and running backs and wide receivers get the fame, I think you have been easily the best offensive rookie so far this year. Until next time, my friend, thanks again for coming on the podcast.
Yep, thank you.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.